My name's Chris. I'm from London. Um, I work in HR and I'm also a counsellor and executive coach. So I've been around personal development for a little while. Um, and in 2016, around summer, I was diagnosed with a form of cancer. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I was 27 years old at the time, so it was a kind of huge shock. I'd never really had any health issues before, and was kind of charging around doing lots of different things. I was working full time. I'd been studying part time. I'd become a registered counsellor, and then suddenly was hit by this diagnosis, and it kind of turned everything upside down. In conversations with Macmillan, who I was talking to, and talking to a specialist nurse who knew a lot about my type of cancer, she pointed me in the direction of a blog which was actually written by Leanne. And that's how I first came to know Leanne and Frederick, and eventually the Nest. Spoke with Leanne first quite a bit over email, and then had some Skype calls with Leanne and Fred. And then it was mid-December in 2016 when I actually came to stay at the Nest for a few days. Having got to know Leanne and Fred a little bit in the run-up, I wasn't really too nervous. I was quite keen to throw myself into this sort of immersive, supportive experience. And also I was struggling quite a lot at the time. I think it was about 6 weeks after my second operation. I was struggling more than I wanted to let the people around me know. And I think I was feeling incredibly vulnerable and just kind of in a state of shock. And I think that's not unique to cancer. I think any big life experience or change can be experienced as a real shock. And it depends how resilient we are at the time as well. So yeah, I was struggling, and what was interesting about coming to stay with Leanne and Fred was that they weren't my family, they weren't my friends. As soon as I were here, everything felt friendly, I felt supported, but they were able to be incredibly objective with me whilst being supportive. And I couldn't believe how taking a few days out in this, first of all, really beautiful home with Leanne and Fred, it's hard to describe actually, because it was it was an incredible experience. And I think the best metaphor is like I was in a raging storm and I came across this island with a lighthouse, and there was a warm home with a log fire. They don't actually have a log fire, but metaphorically that's what it was like. It was an incredible few days in the middle of this huge storm. Leanne and Frederick also are very warm, and have quite different personalities and skills and skill sets, but they're very complementary. So over the few days I spent time with both of them. I spent time individually with Leanne and individually with Frederick. And over the 4 days, in terms of the things that we got up to, there were meditations and craniosacral and massage sessions. I did a drumming journey with Frederick, which was very interesting and quite powerful for me. I had some long conversations with Leanne, which I suppose were more therapeutic conversations around my experiences and what I was struggling with. Sometimes it was in her office, in the two chairs in the formal way, and sometimes it was out walking in nature. And actually that was incredibly powerful, and I had some really cathartic moments with both of them, and I was surprised how easy it felt to really kind of expose so much of myself, and feel really understood and held and supported in a short period of time. That was really special. As well as actually a physical object Frederick gave me when I left, I've carried some of the feelings with me into the challenges, and I definitely felt, in my case I had more medical uncertainty to go through, and I definitely felt a renewed sense of courage. And I think I felt a bunch of things, but I think what was most important was I began to understand a bit deeper my relationship with myself in the context of the experience of cancer and what I went through. And the process of coming here, slowing down, having everything taken care of, being with two really lovely, caring, skillful people, being in a beautiful part of the country, in nature, and changing the routine for a few days really created some space for me where I could step into something slightly different, where I could slow down and recognise some of the things that Leanne and Fred were reflecting on and talking to me about. Very unique as well. I'm not sure where else in our life we can feel that level of support. You know, you can go and see a therapist for an hour a week like I've done, and often that's a great support, but actually when you need something a little bit more intensive or a little bit more immersive, or something that really helps change the routine or the scenery, this was just perfect for me. Absolutely perfect. Nutrition was becoming increasingly important to me at the time when I was going through the treatment process, but also starting to think about taking some control over my health. And I've always been pretty scared of the kitchen and actually cooking and things. So being here and coming down every day and having a kind of fresh organic juice and, you know, taking loads of recipes from Leanne and really being able to experiment with nutrition just as a part of the days here. You know, that wasn't a focus of any of that time together, but, you know, you tend to eat 3 times a day and not think about it. Whereas being at the Nest, that was a really lovely part of the experience here. Was every meal we were eating really great food. Putting really good, healthy food inside my body just felt great, and made me much more aware of my body at a time where that was a really complex experience. Having my ensuite bathroom and being able to have baths with Epsom salts and things, you know, coming from the London flat world, you know, just being able to have a lovely warm bath was incredible. And just the home itself, was, particularly in winter, I think, it was just so warm and inviting from the winter cold. And it was just a great base to go and explore the local area and rivers. And I remember one day, Leanne and I went for a walk, I think on my last day, and we went splashing around in Wellington boots in one of the local rivers and just kind of had a wrap-up chat about what my experience had been like. I remember feeling so reflective and kind of full, but in a really good way. And I could see a noticeable difference from the first day I arrived to the day I left. And after my experience, I remember when Frederick and Leanne dropped me off at the train station. They were both waving goodbye as I was whisked off back to London. I remember writing some notes on the train home, and it's been a year now, and I've come back a year later to the Nest to stay for a couple of days, and it's been interesting to reflect on the experience a year later and what's happened since. And in terms of follow-up with both of them, you know, I've interacted quite a bit, particularly with Leanne, since, and I met up with Fred for a coffee in London in the summer, and the kind of care, I suppose, continued, and the feeling supported by them continued.